Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe, and share if you find this useful or interesting. Okay, so last time we built these layouts with these three pose objects that are going to give us planes to relocate our solid here by reattaching these layouts. I ran into a bug, which I think I would say is shared between Silk and FreeCAD, and it passes through Curve, and I don't think it's Curve's fault in any way. And that is, let me show you real quick. When I look at these surfaces, remember I said these are rough preview blends? Well, there's more to it than that. If you look at this object and you look at its control grid, you see that it's been optimized to be reasonable when all three sides are relatively equal. It becomes worse and worse the more the three sides are unequal. And what is a mild defect right here, when it's very stretched out, becomes a massive defect. And because we're passing enough surfaces to the curves workbench solid for this to be a solid, I just saw something happen where when this becomes distorted enough, the curved solid is no longer a solid, and FreeCAD actually hangs when it's trying to check whether this is a valid solid. So obviously I need to improve this grid so that it remains reasonable, even if ugly, when the triangle is highly distorted. When it's really stretched out, this should still be something that doesn't make FreeCAD crash, but also FreeCAD shouldn't crash just because there's an ugly surface. So, it shouldn't, but it does. So I will have to fix Silk if I want to keep recommending that people use this object even just as a preview. So what I'm going to do right now, and you're going to be seeing it along with me, is I'm just going to delete the solid, and I'll just remake it later. I'm going to delete this solid because I believe that it is what is crashing and causing FreeCAD to hang. So that's a heads up. And now let's actually do what I wanted to show in this episode, which is we're going to attach these three layouts to these poses here. Now we need to be careful about which one we attach where. Obviously the middle goes in the middle, but which one of these should go to the tail and which one should go to the nose? They say, well, this is the bottom, so it should go to the tail. That's nice, but does the solid want to rotate that way? When I look at this bottom layout, it has its x-axis right here and its y-axis right here. And the whole rigmarole we just did was to be able to map it the way we want to, let's say this guy. Oh, it was doing a section. That's why we couldn't see anything. So this guy here, I'm going to stop the section view. I would like it to come maybe to the bottom, but what's really important is that the x-axis of the sketch should be along this line and the y-axis of the sketch should be along this line. So if I bring it over to here, it wants to push the rest of the solid down below. That's not what I want. Whereas if I attach this face to here, then it puts the solid on this side, and that's what I want. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this guy, and right now I'm going to go to map mode, and I'm going to attach it to the nose. See, it's going to snap back here. I'm going to say okay. And look, it did a reasonable thing. The rest of the solid is more or less where I want it to go. So this was the way to go. The bottom is meant to go to the nose, not to the tail. And that's just because of the way the XY sketch is oriented. And realistically, now this is what's driving everything. This is the center, and the tail is based on the center, and the nose is based on the center. So we can reorder these sketches. As a matter of fact, right now I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to call this nose layout. I don't care what it was before. Now it's the nose layout. And now that I've mapped it here, I can clearly see that, oh, this is my tail. So I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to edit its map mode, and I'm going to say, I'm going to delete this. I'm in selecting mode. I do want objects XY, and I'm going to pick tail. Hey, it's jumping back. Well, that's because we had a local offset in the attachment of 400 in the Z. I'm going to put that to 0 and just click here in this window. I haven't hit enter or update anything, but this looks more or less like what I want. Okay, I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit recompute, and it worked. Okay, so this is my tail layout. And then this guy here, well, that's my center layout. So I'm going to attach it to the center. It's not selecting correctly. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to activate reference. See it now. It says selecting for the mode object XY. Now I'm going to hit my center again. Okay, now it jumped over, but it also had a local offset. And I'm going to remove that offset. We're not going to be using local offset anymore to position the planes asterisk. Hit OK. Hit recompute. Okay. We did it. We snapped this in. But, okay, so we snapped it in. That's great. And now here I'm going to say, okay, congratulations. You have graduated to being the center layout. Okay, let's see. Edit this. I'm going to make this 1 also in case I want to make a lot of surfboards. Well, let's see. What order should I have in? Well, this here has the way I created these poses: the center, then tail, then nose. And there was a reason for that. Is I needed to create this on the center to determine the orientation that I wanted, right? So this comes first. Here I'm just going to change this, and I'm going to go center, tail, nose, or inside the folder row, center, tail, nose for the order of these layouts. And now this matches what I did over here. So now my layouts is all of this, and it includes the section sketches. But the section sketches, right now, I haven't properly mapped them to the XY and YZ sketches. So let's do that. How do I do that? I want to do this one just because it's easier to... Actually, I'm going to do this one here because when I edit it, I can just clip and only see the relevant stuff. Remember, this point right here, the origin, is now the end of the line and we want to be attached to. And it's going to, so point is the lift of our nose. Okay, I'm going to, first of all, stop auto update because I'm going to do massive changes to this sketch. I'm going to delete this, delete this, delete this, and keep this one. And now I'm going to control the sketch with symmetry. I select this point, this axis, symmetry. It's not happy about something. What does it not like? Maybe it didn't select my point. Point, axis, symmetry. Doesn't like something. This point is completely free to move. Select this point. Select this point. No. This point. This point. This point. Symmetry. Okay, this time it worked. Okay, sorry if the recording glitches here. I paused the recording for a second. Okay, let's see. So I've got these two symmetric, and this point up in here is going to be free. What about what's going on the bottom, though? What I actually want to do on the bottom is I want the bottom to match this line. I want this bottom line right here to be on the x-axis, basically. So how am I going to do that? Well, I certainly don't want this vertical dimension. So I'm going to take this point, put it on the x-axis, and now this point over here is also going to be defined by symmetry. And let's see, what about the dimensions? Hey, remember my XY layout? I already have an XY layout, so I should do something about that. I'm going to delete this dimension. I'm going to transfer the front line of my XY layout to my sketch. And that's going to define the width here. But I want to be careful here. I'm actually going to turn on auto update because I want to do this in small increments. I'm going to turn on my control sketches and I'm going to do a small change to trigger an update. Okay, all my control sketches updated and they haven't gone crazy. They're actually even on the right side of the layout, so that's great. But now as I reduce the width here, both top and bottom, I need to be careful because this layout, this control sketch here is in 3 lines. If I drag this point past this point here, it can jumble the sketch. So I want to do it just a little bit at a time. It doesn't take that many times to do it, but I want to get a little bit closer without scrambling this sketch. Okay, now I'm pretty close. Here's how I'm going to connect to this bottom sketch. I could do it theoretically with a vertical constraints, but it would be a little bit difficult to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself in geometry mode, and I'm going to draw a line from here to here. And then I'm going to make it parallel to the y-axis. Okay, so I have snapped the bottom of my nose layout so that it touches the line of the YZ layout and it has the width from the XY layout. And now the width up top is independent because I've decided arbitrarily that this layout here represents the bottom line of the surfboard. So here on top, I'm just going to temporarily delete this dimension so I can drag this a little bit at a time. Let it update. This sucks, but it's better than having to update to rebuild all the sketches. It's not a big deal to flip a dimension, to flip the curve from the inside to the outside, but if the lines get scrambled and make a big X, it really sucks. And I'm actually going to do the same thing in the vertical dimension and just drag it a little bit. Because this gives me a reference size right here. And remember that it was 50 millimeters. So I already kind of know what I'm after. I want it to be tapered in towards the top. From the bottom to the top, I already know I want my rails to be slightly tapered in. So this right here looks just about reasonable. And now I'm going to put a dimension back on here. And I'm going to use my constraint lock. And notice that that's it. I'm completely constrained now. This sketch only contains 2 dimensions. The size of the layout in this dimension comes from my overall XY layout. The position of the bottom line comes from the YZ layout. All I can decide is the respective size of the rail and the top surface. And the rest is defined by symmetry. I'm going to go ahead and remove this, hide this silk pose here so we can see just what I'm talking about here. I'm working on this layout sketch. It's located at the tip of this line. The width comes from this other layout, and so this is all I have left to play with. Now that I have dimensions, I'm going to say, what's this? 3 centimeters for the width of the tip. Nah, more like 20, I think. Yeah, more like 20. And then this one here, I know that the bottom is 50 wide, 25 on each side, so this one I'm going to make it 20. Okay, that's the shape of my section at the tip of my surfboard. Let's see. Are my primary curves and surfaces still working? Yep, they're working. This is not broken. And then what about my final surfaces? Yep, my final surfaces are still working. Now, this preview thing is really busted. Oh, see, this is what was causing the crash I was talking about earlier. I'm really glad I deleted the solid from curves workbench temporarily, because see, this is what's going on. This thing has gone so crazy, and I'm sorry, I need to update that, but this is not the way you're supposed to use it. I'm still going to fix it at some point, but in and of itself, it doesn't crash FreeCAD. It's only when you try to make a solid out of it that it will crash FreeCAD, unfortunately. So we'll fix that, and I will update the program. But right now, I just want to do what I did right here with this layout. See the nose layout? What I did here, I want to do the same thing in the middle and at the tail. So I'm going to work faster this time. In the center layout, I don't want these dimensions. Oh, I'm going to turn off auto update. I don't want the majority of these dimensions. As a matter of fact, I only want these two at the top. But right now, I'm going to turn on auto update and gently nudge it back into position. And the way I do that is by moving these lines so they don't cross over the points of my 3-point sketch. So I'm pretty close to the x-axis. Right now I can do it. Grab this point, the x-axis, coincident. Then this point, the y-axis, symmetric. Okay, and my sketches haven't gone crazy yet. I'm going to turn off the view clipping so I can see everything that's going on. And let's see, do I need to see any of these poses? No. Do I need to see the root layout sketch? No. The XY sketch? Yes. The YZ sketch? Sure. Okay, this is fine. But there's one more right here. I don't need to look at this. So I have snapped myself to the x-axis. So now I'm at the bottom of my YZ layout, right? And so what do I need to do? I need to make a reference to my XY layout. So I'm going to transfer. What am I going to transfer? I want to transfer just the point right here. Because if I transfer the line, it's going to make a long line in here. So I just transferred just the point on the sketch right here. And I want to do the same thing here. So I hover on here until I don't see either line highlighted. And that gets me those points. Now I can hide the XY sketch and I have these 2 points. Actually, I only need one because I'm going to work by symmetry. So I selected that point, delete it. Doesn't want to delete. Delete, please. Okay, it worked. So now I'm not going to put a dimension on here. I'm going to make it coincident with this point. It didn't like it. That's because there's already a point on object constraint here. So I'm going to delete that point on object constraint. And now my coincident points with this point from the layout works. I'm going to show my layout again. So I see that, hey, I've snapped the bottom of this section layout to the global XY sketch. Cool. All I need to do is pick dimensions for the transition for the height of the rail and the transition from deck to rail. So this is 100 centimeter. This is 10 centimeters. That's way too much. I don't know what a surfboard is supposed to be, but I'm going to say, I don't know, maybe 5 centimeters, so 50 millimeters here for the height. I cut it in half, and the sketches didn't flip out on me. I'm going to drag this one manually close to horizontal, and then I'm going to make this point here, and this point here symmetric with this axis. Thinking about it, okay, I did it. The sketch is fully constrained. Now all I want to do is adjust the lateral position of the rail, right? I'm going to want to make the deck bigger, the rail smaller. So this is 150, and if I remember correctly, this would be 250 because the overall width was 500. So this is 250. I want to go all the way up to 225, but I don't want to do it all at once. Just going to delete the dimension and drag it a little bit out. Drag it in 2 or 3 operations. Just 2 or 3. Nothing too crazy. See, that already flipped these sketches because they're so tiny. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag them way out so that they definitely get flipped to the inside. And then I'm going to tuck back in so that they stay outside. And here, I'm going to create a new constrain lock because I always want to have the positive and negative. It's over constrained. Delete this new vertical one. Go to this one and say 225. Okay, maybe that's too tilted for the rail, but that's where I'm going to put it for now. Okay, let's check our primary surfaces again. Everything's coming along. All right, see, for this half, it's now following my layout. And when I look in the right plane, it's following my layout. What does it look like in my final surfaces? It's starting to do the thing. It's totally starting to do the thing. Okay, let's do the last one. I said I was going to go fast, and I still talked way too much. Auto update off. Delete this, delete this, delete this, delete this, delete this, delete this, delete this bottom one. Let's put in the symmetry. Let's put in the symmetry. Tuck these guys in. Okay, now I need to tuck it up into position. Where am I going? I'm just going to the x-axis. The x-axis is already set so that it will line up with the bottom of my YZ layout. So that's all I need to do. I'm going to turn on auto update so that I can drag this a little bit at a time, which, remember, is just to give me a chance to keep these sketches not completely crazy. See, if they flip inside to outside, that's not that big a deal. What really sucks is when they get crisscrossed. This one, okay, this managed to flip it. See, I'm getting some, this one is on the outside, this one is on the inside. I will have to fix it manually. I'm done playing with it. This point, no, I don't want to put this point on this axis. It's time to make a reference to the layout and then set a construction line from here to this point. Remember, this is one thing where you could be using just a vertical constraint, but by doing it this way, I get this construction line that shows me, hey, this is where your data is coming from. It's linking like, hey, you follow this layout. So I think that's useful. And once I have the line, creating a parallel constraint is not that big a deal. Okay, now that I've got this located, now I can put this on this axis. Did it do it? Is it working? There's something a little bit strange going on, isn't there, with this line not connecting? Okay, let's close this. Make it update. Okay, this looks okay now. That's weird. See how everything snapped back and everything's connected? For a moment, it looked like the sketches had detached. Let's check this surface. This surface is fine. Okay, so right now, finally, I have connected it to my overall layout. The bottom faces of my blob are now connected to my bottom layout, and they follow my YZ layout. Let's finish giving this a reasonable size. And what does that mean? It means that right now this is 200. I'm going to make it 30, just like I did in the nose. And then this guy here, I'm just going to tuck it back a little bit. I don't know, maybe 95. I think that looks okay. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 90. Right. See, the way this works from a parameter standpoint is that this dimension controls the height of the rail, which is also the thickness of the board in this area. And then this dimension controls the transition from deck to rail. But I still have curves on every single one of these edges to really tweak things. But this is the basic idea. And here we're looking at we haven't shaped any of these curves, but already, even with unshaped curves, we already have all our blends in place. Obviously, we want to shape our curves. And when I look here, I see this is the basic shape of my surfboard. So I can tell right now, if I've got it 2 centimeters thick, and see, what did I choose? Did I do 20 and 20? On these sketches, okay, I did 50 millimeters in the center. And then the tail is 30 millimeters thick. And the nose is 20, I think. Yeah, those are fine. That looks really thin. All right, I mean, I'm going to put curves on this, but it still looks really thin. Well, we can edit it later. We did accomplish what we set out to do, though. And that is we mapped our blob to this layout system, which allows us to drive it from an overall layout here for the outline and an overall elevation layout. And let's edit those to show that, hey, this works. My layout right here. It looks, 500 is not enough. 600. Oh, I did 60 instead of 600. Let's do 600. Okay. So now it's wider. And then say here, when we draw the curves in, that'll be the time to set the elevation. But let's say, no, I already want more elevation. 150. The whole thing goes along. And it's not a true full curve, but you could cheat and you could go into blending setup, look at the blending points. You could say right here, I'm just going to bring this back down to 0.5, which is left. And I'm going to bring this back to 0.5. Because remember, we put what used to be the bottom is now here. So the way to control the cut points is from here. That's just the way it ended up. You could change it. You could change the colors and redo the formulas. I'm not going to. I say I'm going to control these cut points from wherever they are. It doesn't matter which one of these is driving because they're both at the same value. So, but I've made my blend wider, and now this blend in the nose is just ridiculous. It's stretching the triangle way too much. Put it at 0.05. Okay, it's still way too much blending for this triangle to handle. but at least it's not as crazy as before. So this 0.75, I'm going to make it 0.99 or 0.95. Okay. And this is just a very quick way to say, hey, look, I can get some curvature out of this thing, even though it's all made out of straight lines. But the real way to do this, obviously, is to edit all these straight lines and actually make them curves. So that's what we'll be doing next time. We're going to do Control Save As, rough surf, and I'm going to call this 88, and it's still rough surf. All right, guys, catch you next time.